Welcome back to White Mountains. Today it is time for the Boston.com free-for-all. I'm here with Eric Wilbur, who writes for Boston.com, and his sidekick Nathaniel, who's giving moral support behind the camera, soon to be 5, Nathaniel. Welcome to White Mountains Today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Now, tell us a little bit, introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, what you do.
My name is Eric Wilbur. I'm a writer for Boston.com. I do both sports and travel, which gives me a whole array of topics to discuss, to write about, to cover. So it's really quite fun because I'm not pigeonholed into one thing to do.
That sounds like a tough job. People always see me on the street and say, you have a tough job. You get to talk about White Mountain attractions and ski and do all that fun stuff. Yeah, I do have a very good job. But you seem to have a pretty good one too.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Write about sports and then come up to the White Mountains, ski.
Go to the White Mountains, Green Mountains, Maine. You know, it's really tough to be a ski writer because it's always been a passion of mine. So I've always wanted to get into that.
Yep.
So the fact that I'm able to do it and to do other things at the same time is really it's fun.
Right.
A lot of fun.
Well, let's talk about. We'll start in Boston. You write about sports.
Yep.
Anything to write about these days?
No, nothing.
In Boston,
nothing's going on.
Happening. It's kind of a slow sports season.
Yeah, the Red Sox have been interesting, and obviously with the trade, that's big news. That's topic du jour still.
Yep.
And then it's hard to believe the Patriots are starting a week from today, so it's going to be interesting.
But with the Red Sox trade, we actually get some Boston sports talk radio up here, and I listen to that. You get these callers every once in a while who will, just throw out these outlandish trades. What do we do about, the fact that we've got Josh Beckett and Carl Crawford and Adrian Gonzalez all to these, huge contracts, and you get these just fantasy callers to say, let's just trade them, get rid of them, and it's always like, okay, that could never possibly happen. Logistically, it just wouldn't work, and then all of a sudden you find out. This trade happened.
Well, that's what last Friday was like. When we found out Adrian Gonzalez was claimed by a team, then we found out it was the Dodgers, then you're like, they'll probably just pull him back. And then it just became fantasy land. Here's Carl Crawford and Josh Beckett. And early in the morning, an LA Times columnist had written, the Dodgers may still be interested in Adrian Gonzalez, but you may have to take on Josh Beckett or Carl Crawford. And you sit there reading that, it's like, you're delusional. None of that's ever going to happen. And then less than 10 hours later, there it is. It's reality, and it's just unbelievable.
Right, it is. One of my favorite parts of the whole trade was, I don't know if it was after the first game or before the first game, they had a big press conference with all members of the trade.
Yeah, on Saturday.
And people forget, Nick Punto was actually part of the trade as well.
Of course.
Nick Punto comes in and he says, I'm a world champion, and I can't wait to go after another world championship here. Like, Nick, you should probably just sit there and nod your head. Let the other guys do the talking. You're batting .204.
For such a nice guy, I understand that's why they brought him in the first place. He's really kind of obstinate. Like, he really loves himself for being such a team
world champion.
World champion. Nick Punto.
You've got yourself quite a deal. You get a world champion coming to you. I'd still rather have Carl Crawford.
Yeah, I would too. I think it's too bad that we didn't get to actually see what Carl Crawford could really be.
Yeah, we got a taste of it this year in his limited
about
playing
a week
time.
and a half. Yeah, it's fun.
So I think but it'll be good going forward. It's nice to see that the ownership is at least actively involved and wants to do something.
Right, that they're not. It does become concerning. We can whine about Liverpool all we want, but it does become concerning when they have way too many things going on. And obviously Red Sox fans are passionate about their team. That's what they care about. They don't care about the other peripheral stuff. They don't want to cheer LeBron James. They don't want Liverpool, great. We all love soccer, but don't make me have to love Liverpool just because you bought it. Sorry.
And especially when you get LeBron James as your business partner and spokesperson.
That just kind of speaks to not having quite the pulse of the nation.
Right. Wasn't he at Fenway or something right after they bought the team?
Yeah, right after, the day after they made the deal, I remember Nesson had this real big splash about it. Look, we're in business with LeBron James. And people were just watching going, why? Really? It just speaks to them just kind of not really getting what fans want sometimes.
And the nice thing about the Boston area is that they'll find out pretty quickly. I think they're getting a crash course.
Well, that was
this
just
year.
it. A lot of this that went on last week. We wondered if the fans actually understood, or the owners understood, the anger that the fans are going through. And Larry Lucchino comes out and says, well, it's really the media overblowing things. And it's like, well, not really. If you listen to sports talk radio or you read the papers or you look at online discussion boards, people out there have an angst. I really haven't seen this kind of angst in a long time.
Yeah.
One, it's the internet and social media and all that stuff. It makes it different. We have 2 sports radio stations in town now, soon to be 3.
People used to be able to bury their angst,
Exactly.
and now there's an outlet for everybody.
1997 was the last time this team has been this bad.
Yeah.
And that's only 15 years ago, and even then, the landscape of fans' opinions and the way they express them has changed so great.
Yeah. And, sometimes, to be fair to the ownership and to be fair to the team, it's one thing to be angry that they're not winning. It's another thing to have no solution to it.
Right.
Sometimes you listen to sports talk radio, they say, the ownership's not doing anything. They need to do something, but they'll never say what. And in the end, it's always, we need to trade or sign the best players out there. Well, that's kind of what they did. If they hadn't done that, you'd be saying the ownership is tight-fisted and they never want to spend money. And the opposite, they went out and got the 3 best players that they could, and it just didn't work out.
It's going to be interesting going forward because Charrington, the general manager, is such a good scout and development guy.
Yeah.
And if this signifies that now he's really in charge and that he can make the moves he wants to make, it may take a couple of years.
Yeah.
But going forward, it's going to be a long-term solution that fans are going to be happy with.
And I think one of the things that ownership maybe missed, it's something that the Patriots really get, I think, is that being a great team and winning, that's probably first and foremost, but having characters to follow, having these heroes, being able to invest in a team is almost as important. It's like even if this team had done really well, there was just something unfulfilling about it. There were no good guys to get behind. You weren't following. There was no character arc. You weren't following. This like the 2004 team when Schilling came in, and there was just such a good story.
That's the point I was just going to bring up. Is that we were kind of spoiled by 04. When you look back, because that character. With Schilling and Johnny Damon and Kevin Millar, and then you had quiet guys that produced like Bill Miller, even like Todd Walker in 2003 to a degree. We were really kind of spoiled by that because that was such a character-driven team. Yeah. That's never going to come around again. Yeah. And I think for at least a generation, fans are going to obviously look at that team as their favorite, the one that changed everything. Yep. You can't really draft character. Yeah. You can look into a guy's background and see what kind of person they are, but you can't draft a guy because he's, Kevin Millar is a funny guy in the clubhouse. Yeah. So it's kind of something that just has to happen organically. Yeah. And, here and there you find those guys, but they're just, sometimes they're difficult when they're such millionaires, and baseball players in general are, I guess the word's difficult, of the more difficult athletes to cover and get to know because they've been so coddled for much of their life. Right.
You can't underestimate chemistry, I think, is the lesson I learned from this. And the Patriots seem to have gotten that over the years. Yep. They're not afraid to cut people, as we know, and they don't have too many prima donnas on their teams. If they do, they don't last long. What's your take on the early season for the Patriots?
The offensive line scares me a little bit. I think there's a little inconsistency there, and considering, look, Bill Belichick knows what he's doing with backup quarterbacks. I think we've kind of gotten there. Yep. That fact that he cuts Hoyer for Mallett, something he sees. There's a talent there that he trusts if Brady were ever to go down. So, fine with that. But the line does scare me a little bit. All of a sudden, they're thin at wide receiver, huh? Well, how'd that happen?
We were wondering how are they going to carry all these great wide receivers going into the season?
Well, I think part of it is that they see Hernandez as a hybrid. He's not just a tight end; he can be the wide receiver, and that gives them a lot of different looks that can really confuse defenses.
Right. So it kind of that's the Belichick way right there. When you think one thing like, man, how are we going to whittle these 12 great wide receivers down to 6.
Right.
and Bill Belichick says, no problem, we're actually going to get down to 3.
Yeah, boom, boom, boom. I would expect Branch to come back, though.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so. I think after week 1, if they had him on the week 1 roster, his contract is guaranteed. Mm-hmm. After week 1, they can bring him back and have a non-guaranteed contract for whatever dollars they work out. Branch is kind of a funny situation because he works so well in the Belichick and Patriot offensive system. He goes to another team, and as we saw with Seattle, it just doesn't quite click. And I think a lot of teams realize that he's special for this offensive scheme. And
even he wasn't, last year, he wasn't obviously one of the flashiest receivers, but the nice thing about him is he was reliable, and you could just tell that he was on the same page. He was the anti-Ocho Cinco.
Right, as Brady, always on the same page as Brady, always has been, and seemingly always will be.
And it's nice because you could tell that Brady knew that too. That ultimately he had an escape hatch in.
Let's just say, I think if Brady has any say in the situation, that Branch will be back after week 1. I don't think. Like I said, I just don't think he works that well with other teams. Yep. And if you have a choice of bringing back Starworth or Gaffney, Maybe Gaffney, but I think if you ask Brady, he's going to say Branch number one.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk skiing. Okay, so you come up here a lot. What's the big news so far in the skiing preseason? Looking ahead to this upcoming winter.
A lot of stuff. People are starting to get excited early this year, huh? Which I guess after last year is acceptable. Let's get going with this. Time to start working out. I know Wildcat and Attitash have these new $30 midweek tickets that they're selling through September.
Yep.
Bretton Woods and Cranmore just announced a new midweek pass that they're selling now.
Wow.
We're starting to get going. We're starting to get excited. I mean, the leaves are already turning in Vermont in certain places. I know Jay Peak has been pretty excited about some of the colors they're showing. Hopefully, the weather's going to cooperate this time around, because last year a lot of us were,
right,
itching to get out, and it never really happened.
Do you ski midweek? Do you get a chance to get up here?
A lot of the times, yeah. It's called carryover days. And you save those, and you stock them up into January and March especially, and get up here midweek. It's great to be up here midweek because there's a certain element of a hardcore skier that's out there. You go up to Wildcat and you see the same faces like on a Wednesday. And it's like, okay, I wish I could do this nonstop, but it's fun just to be up here and see those familiar faces and to just be out there in nature. Nothing I like better.
I've always said I feel bad for people who only ski the weekends because they don't really, they haven't experienced 90% of what a resort really could be. If you can get there on a midweek, when you have trails to yourself, when you've got fresh snow, and you've got you don't, not that lift lines are ever really a huge problem except for the busiest days, but to have no lift lines, it's just an experience that will have you saying, I get it now. I get why skiing is.
It's like going to sometimes it can be night and day, especially at a place like Wildcat. Even on the weekends, it's crowded, but that's the best lift in the Northeast by far. So you never really feel that. At a place like Loon, where it's insanely crowded on the weekends, you go there during the week, and it's just a completely different atmosphere, completely different world, and you kind of understand, oh, so this was what skiing can be about.
Right. A
lot of the times you're done at noon, 1 o'clock because you've gotten so many runs in because it's just a free for all. So it definitely is a much different feeling, much different atmosphere, much different approach.
You're not dodging other skiers, and the big snow quality. Snow quality is almost not an issue anymore with snowmaking. The only thing that affects snow quality is just the amount of skiers on the trail. So if you're there during a busy holiday weekend, no matter how good the snow is, it's going to get kind of scraped off towards the middle of the day, and midweek, you just don't have that.
Yeah,
so,
exactly right.
Get up here and enjoy some midweek skiing. This kind of make your plans now, and of course, you can get great deals on hotels and tickets.
Yeah, I mean, there's already less than 10 days from now. There's a ski symposium over at Sunday River, so it's kind of hard to believe we're here already, but it's getting exciting.
It happens fast.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we're running out of time. We've probably got to get going. People, where can they find your columns? Where can they?
You can go to www.boston.com/sports or www.boston.com/travel. I'm in both platforms.
Type in Eric Wilbur.
You can Google Eric Wilbur. You may not find a lot of great things said about me, but
you're a punter in the Canadian Football League.
That's right. That's me. That guy actually gets some tweets when people are angry. He's like, "You mean this guy? Just leave me alone."
I happened to Google you last night and try to find some of your columns. And
you had the Jets for like 2 weeks too, and then they cut him because he was shanking putts.
Was he? Yeah. So your cohort's giving you a hard time about that. Hey, you got cut by the Jets,
That's right. Yeah.
All right, Eric Wilbur, Boston.com, and of course it's Nathaniel, right?
That's Nathaniel.
Nathaniel, giving you the moral support in the back. What do you think? Was it a good interview? Yeah, he nods. It was okay. I'll give it a 5.
That's the most reaction he's had all day, so good.
All right, thanks for joining us.
No problem, thank you.
We'll be back to wrap up White Mountains today. I think we have time for one more watch and win right after this.
Everyone's talking about the Penguin Gallery, North Conway's famous